where you're actually doing it as a part of the work, where you have time and resources to scramble and do things, it's very difficult to align. And then you miss 1 week, and then like, oh, I might miss another week. It's just like, just becomes a hassle. Whereas if it's recorded, I can prepare,
Hmm.
get questions ahead of time, and like all of that stuff just makes it much easier.
Yeah, so I totally agree
Yeah.
with you.
Let me ask you this. I mean, we kind of spoke about it when you were first time, but you were the first time you were here. You were actually with Alex Brady, right? Like you guys were together, you and her.
No,
Um,
I think first time I was here with Nadia
oh,
Mogilev.
that was maybe Levi Petterfee. That was with her.
Probably, yeah, probably.
Yeah. Okay, you were with Nadia.
Yes.
Yeah, I remember that. Um, Yeah, I mean, I think we only briefly talked about it, but I want to, because like, again, it comes back to questions that happen every now and then. There's always this question like, oh, I'm 18 I was actually talking about this with
Hmm.
Aaron on
Hmm.
my previous episode. There's like 18, 19, like 17-year-old kids coming in. He was actually saying that there was kids coming in like, oh, I'm 17, I don't know what I'm gonna do with my career, my life is ruined. It's like,
Oh
wait,
my God.
what? You're 17. Calm down.
Yeah, that
um,
I do get those as well. It's tricky, isn't it? Like me personally, myself, like I started when I was 25. Like it's not like I started first at 25. I realized, oh, there was this concept art that I can do, right?
yeah,
Before that, I was just like doing my engineering stuff. I would see like pictures online, but I never thought like it could be real
right.
profession to do it. And at 25, I've like literally the first time I ever picked up a Wacom pen, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna be a painter. And
Yeah.
I made a few brushstrokes, and I realized, oh my god, like, I'm far away from being a painter, right? So it took another 6 solid years before I could get my first paid gig. So yeah,
Yeah,
and
so you
then
were almost 30 when
yeah,
you actually started
I
working.
was 31. Yeah, when it was
Yeah,
exactly
there you go.
9 years ago. So
Yeah, yeah. I remember that because we worked together like 10, well, not 8 years ago. Was it
yeah,
8 years ago? Yeah, we worked
it,
together on
it,
the
to,
Guardians of the
yeah,
Galaxy.
it was 2012, isn't it? When it's
Yep, yep.
Guardians of the Galaxy. Yeah, that was actually my first film gig as well. I don't know.
Oh, wow.
So yeah,
You're already crushing it.
I was in commercials before. I was just doing a lot of commercial work,
Right.
advertising, and yeah, this is where my passion to film started. So since then,
Yeah. But that's kind of shows you like, okay, you're 30 years old. It's not too late, it
hmm
never is, especially now with like I want to hear your opinion about this. Because like so we spoke about we talked about just moments ago about how competitive the market became, but also how easy it is to learn. Um, and the only thing I would want to add to it is also, stylistically,
hmm
you can do a lot of things. You don't have to like conform to what's the newest trend, and you can still become successful.
hmm
And like, I think the biggest avenue for that is social media.
yep,
And social media by itself, like it turned from people quickly realized, I think are realizing that it's not just to talk with friends. It just became one of the best platforms to share
promote
your
it.
business and
Yeah.
promote yourself and become a business as well,
hmm
and actually make a living doing that. I want to hear what you think about that, and if like how is that in your opinion changing the way artists could,
hmm
like the kind of path they could pick, because a lot of me and you and we kind of grew up, learned to be in this industry, um, be in the entertainment industry, and for longest time that felt like that's the way to go, and you have to follow a certain path in
hmm
order to become successful. But every now and then, like not every now and then, but more and more by each year, you can start to see artists that are not necessarily going that route,
hmm
and instead they are focusing on the aspects of themselves and social media, and
hmm
whether they are teaching
hmm
or maybe just producing art and making videos
hmm
about it or stuff
hmm
like that, and then that becomes very quote unquote lucrative
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
for
Well,
them.
I do agree with you. I mean, And that's why, like, for me, whenever I see, like, let's say, it often happens when some AI stuff comes out, AI does character design, and we're just like, oh, panicking, we're gonna lose our jobs, right? Like, and then you question yourself, what exactly my job is, right? Like, there's so many different kind of opportunities these days, like you said, you don't necessarily need to be in film industry to be successful, or illustration industry to be successful. You can have your own thing, doing
Right.
internet kind of type of entertainment. So there are a lot of venues you can invest your effort into, and there are a lot of different areas you can basically make yourself as a successful person. That's why I think that's a good platform, like social media, and it opens a lot of possibilities. But again, it's all about balance, Like some people,
Yeah.
they tend to go, oh, it's all about social media, which is also not true. You gotta have something that people will adore and come to you. Otherwise, nobody just follows you on Instagram just because
That's
you're
correct.
posting
Yeah.
every day. People come to see you because they love your ideas or they love your style. So I guess like it's a complicated a combination of things makes you very appealing to other people. And it's not only about just doing specific type of art. You can be doing very different things. You can be doing like, I don't know, wooden sculptures, and people would come to you because they love what you're doing. Back in the days, you would do the same thing, but nobody would know about you because you were living somewhere like, yeah, the social, like obviously internet, social media opens so many different possibilities, which is fantastic. That's why I'm always super positive about the industry. If tomorrow character design would be done by some AI, but you will still need people to kind of come up with ideas anyway. So there are a lot of venues, a lot of different things we will be able to do, and already able to do. That's why I'm very positive about the upcoming future.
Speaking of AI, there's this podcast that I've been listening to more and more often, done by Lex Friedman. He's actually I think he's one of the MIT guys, and he's like super well versed in AI. Has like all the AI, leading programmers and figureheads. And the more and more I listen to it, it's like, you know what? Actually, it's not as scary as everyone makes it. So there is still like, I think we have a long runaway. Like like if you're starting an airplane, you have that runoff, strip to prepare. But it's good to know that it's out there. But yeah, gosh,
well, you know what? I think what scares people off is that they think like, oh, AI is going to steal our jobs, right? Like, it will. Some of the jobs will disappear.
Yeah.
But that's what happened when just Photoshop and 3D animation and 3D modeling came out. A lot of jobs got obsolete. They got outdated, and people had to adapt. So you kind of cannot stop the progress. There will be something like taking over and simplifying things.
Yeah.
But
here's my. You go ahead. Sorry.
It just gives you more room to be creative. Then you can just concentrate less on physically doing something. Like, for example, I was collaborating with NVIDIA guys. They're working on this app, Gogan, when you give it an input as a very kind of simple sketch, and it spits out very realistic images. So your job as a film concept artist or concept artist in general is not like painting a foreground rock, right? Like for 2 hours. If there's a program where you can just click and say, hey, play some rocks here, I would be happy to use it, right? Then I can concentrate on the bigger picture, maybe make it an animated feature, it will take over all the quite time-consuming stuff and allow me to be more creative. So that's my take on that.
Yeah, I remember we were talking about this over at Lightbox. Where I think it was Infinity Painters booth. We're just chatting together.
Yeah.
And we're sort of like discussing it. But like one of the things that I've noticed, you've mentioned like, okay, if I have if I could have an app that does this, I don't have to do it. That's perfect. And people get worried like, but what if that app, replaces all the labor? Well, that's great, because then your creative ideas will matter the most, right? But also, I started thinking, and that's why I asked you about social media, because like there used to be this, we spoke about the fact that Photoshop replaced drawing pretty much in production pipeline. No one draws anymore. There's just very few people, and I know few people in the film industry that are really good and fast at drawing, and there are some production designers that really prefer that specifically, and that's why they're still doing it. But mostly everyone is either Photoshop or 3D at this point.
Yes.
But when you go on Instagram or YouTube, it's complete reverse. Like people are actually enjoying like the craft of doing something by hand.
Yeah.
Instead of like the computer generated stuff, you know, or like the stuff that is just like, okay, I'll photo bash something quick, boom, and it's fast and it's rendered beautifully. People are like, oh yeah, it looks cool. I've seen thousands of those already, you know, but super cool sketch with like a nice idea and drawn by hand where I can see the whole process. That's something like, oh, you know, I really enjoyed sort of the artistry of getting there by using those old mediums, and that just becomes like more and more attractive to people. And to me it seems like with the advent of social media and how Instagram is growing and YouTube and all the other channels, including Twitch, like all of those channels give you an avenue to express what you love the most. And once people realize, like, if people see you have a lot of passion towards that specific thing, it clicks right away, I feel.
Yeah.
Don't you think?
I totally agree. The key word there is something you love, you know? I like often get this question, like, what drives you and like how can you manage like still being... I'm almost in my 40s, despite the late start, but I'm still very motivated, and I always keep saying the only way to do it is just to love it. You know, when you like love what you're doing, then eventually people will see it in your work. You know, that's why, like, for example, honestly, like, as much as I love social media, what people know, like, I've been very open about this. I was never like intentionally doing something to get popular on Instagram or Facebook, and it shows. I don't have that amount of followers anyway, but I just love doing my little cubes and render them in 3D and VR, you know, and then whoever enjoys that kind of stuff, they came to me. So if at some point I do enjoy drawing, but I don't have time right now to do it properly. So if at some point I decide, hey, I want to get better at this, I will start doing it, and I will be doing it because I love it, not because I want to get to broaden my audience or something like that. So again, I guess there is a balance, you know. Once you treat it as a formula, which it is not, you know. That's why I think I read it in your stories when somebody asked you if you're reading any motivational books, and you decided like, why would I read those books? They always like keep saying about the things that you know, like when you read those books, they're all about, oh, you need to do this and that, and you spend so much time just reading them instead of doing it. That's why, like, it's the same with social media, you know, like, yes, it's an instrument that can help you, but I don't like to treat it as a formula, you know. I love being just passionate about what I'm doing, and in the end, that kind of draws people who share the same passion, and they come and start following you, and they appreciate what you do.
Yeah, I feel, you know, I started treating social media completely differently this year and like late last year than I used to treat it before. And I started to look at it more of, what's the best way to describe it? Because business, saying it is just a business, it's too raw and too sterile, but it's also not true. Because that's just not the whole point, right? Well, let's put it this way: you have to approach it as business, meaning, like, you're not gonna have any benefits of using social media in terms of if you want to use social media as a tool to, you know, maybe become more independent as an artist, right? That's not gonna happen if you're not gonna put in the work. Yeah, it's just like the reality is there's an algorithm that runs the show, and if you have to conform yourself to the algorithm, and if you do, then you get more eyes on your work. That doesn't necessarily mean that more people will follow it, but it means it's more likely people will see what you're doing. And then if you're doing something that is expressed by passion and they see that you love doing that stuff specifically, then it will you have more chances to find people that actually love what you do, right? It's the same with YouTube and podcasts and whatnot. Like, you have to use hashtags, you have to tag your videos in a specific way, you have to use specific kind of thumbnails, you have to use specific kind of language in terms of how you name your videos, and that's something I'm kind of learning right now, is because the algorithm will highlight it or will not highlight it, and then someone who might be a person that is a great candidate to listen to it and then get influenced by the videos or by the content you produce to actually take it and make something better out of their lives, might not be able to see it just because you didn't bother to put tags and it just didn't go trending or whatever, right? So it's like, in that terms, you have to treat it as a business. Like, that's where it's like, okay, there is a specific game that I need to play in order for me to be more visible for those who are interested in what I do. Not necessarily gain more followers, because, like, you know what, followers, it doesn't matter how many people follow you.
That's true.
It's just like on YouTube, for instance, there are channels that have millions of followers, but well, maybe not millions, but hundreds of thousands of followers, and they are not doing as great financially as some of the smaller channels that maybe have like 30, 40,000. But those are like the hardcore, like, we fucking love you, dude, and we'll do everything for you.
Agree.
Because, like, the name of the game is watch time. So how much people engage with what you do, how genuine you are as a person, are you expressing the love that you do, and are you doing it genuinely, or it's transparent that you're doing it for, like, oh, I'm just doing it because I need to. That's not a way to go, obviously, right?
That's true. That's true. But again, you made valid points. It's about balance, you know. It's a great tool, and it's made for you to expose yourself. It has its own rules, so you gotta, like, use those. But also, as you mentioned, like, once you just started chasing that, then it becomes like not probably what you would love to do ideally.
Yeah, I think we can agree. Like, the underlying value is you have to, like, focus on you and what you love, and how you express it is how people gonna react to it.
That's true.
Yeah. It's I like where it's going, honestly, because this is another topic I want to talk with you about. It's a large one. This is actually what pisses me off.
Go for it.
Well, it's not pissing me off, but it's like, it's giving me, like, why are you doing that? Like, and not in a bad way, but it's in, like, more of like a fatherly love way. Let's put it this way.
Yeah.
So, like, as a dad, I get pissed off if my daughter does something stupid, but then I understand she's a kid and she doesn't know better. And I don't want to say I know better, but when people talk about the speed of how fast they do the work, right?
Yeah.
And like, what do you think about that? Because I have a very, like, fatherly, like, don't do that. No, like, nobody can, like, it's only you're bragging towards, you know, the wrong kind of audience. Your client's gonna abuse you for that, you know. I wonder what's your experience with that, because I feel the industry, because of the way people, like, how fast people are, and in the ideal scenario, for example, I've picked up this new software, I've learned this cool thing, I can do this thing fast. Hey, I've done this whole image in 2 hours, right? And it's impressive, but hey, you already prepared by learning it. You had an idea. It's a perfect scenario. Now, would you be able to replicate that 4 times more a day, and then for a few months straight, right?
Yeah, that actually would play a big like karma with you, isn't it? When you start a job and you will not be able to repeat it like 4 times.
Right.
Okay, so, well, there are different takes on this, which I think, like, a little bit opening that theme would be great. So, I actually was thinking about just today, like, I saw someone posting, oh, I did this image in 2 hours. I was like, damn, next time I do something, I want to do an image and say I worked for a month on it. Let's see how that looks like. Seriously, I was like thinking about, not in a bad way, you know, it's like, the artist posted, it was great and the image was fantastic. It's not the speed with which you do something what is important, especially when you're working on something design driven, you know. It's actually the speed of decision making what makes a difference, you know. Like
Right.
often when you record a video of yourself drawing, it feels like you're drawing fast, and you watch it, you go like, "Oh my god, I'm so slow actually," you know. Like even resizing a brush, like that, it's like. But it's decision making is what matters. You know how many times you
Right.
decide, "Oh, my color is off, my composition is not balanced," and stuff like that. Those are the things that are important because working on projects, physically you will always be given time to do something like to draw, finish, to work it up or whatever. It's all about like every time you're doing these micro decisions where it is important, and
Right.
this is where I train myself to be faster. Like I've been teaching this and also been sharing this technique where I set up a timer, like let's say 15 minutes to accomplish something, but not because I want to be super fast. I just want to decide things faster. I just want to like be very expression driven. Like if I'm doing a quick sketch, I want to create something that is quite expressive. And
Right.
having a time limit helps me first to stay focused and also to just like, okay, I need to do this in 15 minutes. And you train to be faster, but not faster in a way you just make crazy quick brushstrokes, but faster in a way you decide on something. It's either composition, color, or design choices and stuff like that. So, but then, yeah, I'm not bothered by it like that much, but I also there's not much difference if it was done in 3 or 4. I actually like now I'm sculpting. Like recently I was doing this cat, and I was cursing like inside my head. Like I was like, why am I so slow? Like I see all the ZBrush guys doing it fantastic. Like in 10 minutes, you see like Ralph Grassetti, like pop. It's just 10 minutes. It's like,
Oh, you have to listen to the episode.
Yeah, I
of
should.
Ralph.
I saw it just recently.
Yeah, it will dispel that myth for you right away.
Yeah, it looks like great, and I was like, I'm so slow, but I always keep reminding myself, I'm slow now. The more I do that, I will get faster. I don't need to be a speed sculptor, but at least my decision I think like I'm losing right now a lot of time in decision. I make a wrinkle and I go, oh, is it right? Control Z, do it again. So this is what
Right.
matters, like because when you're working on jobs. Yes, the image as a final output is what clients see, but you go through tons of different challenges. Well, how can I make perspective look right when I have this design-driven object that I have to also design and make everything look nice? The light needs to be realistic and all this stuff. And on top of that, they throw feedback, right? They go like, "Can you change that?" So if you're working, if your decision
before you make
making,
your decision, or it's already changed.
exactly, and that's why like quick, fast decision making also gives you room for changes, like for any kind of feedback. So that's why like I think speed is important, but it's not actual speed of doing something. Well, unless you're doing something for 3 months, that's a problem. But if you like, that's why I feel that's what makes me as an artist feel tired in the end of the day. Not because I was moving my Wacom pen, or my mouse. It's because I was constantly having these micro decisions to make. And most often they were like quite stressful situations, like I have to decide on something. Like you put this color, and if it's a wrong choice, they could reject it, or the wrong shape you're working on and stuff like that. So, yeah, but obviously there's some certain type of work that are faster to do it in different packages. But again, it's not something I probably would brag about, I guess. I'm just trying to remember if I ever posted something. I did this in 2 hours, but
I think every one of us did that one.
Yeah.
So it's not like I'm saying it because I'm like why you're doing. I mean, I did that myself.
Okay, I already told you the one that pisses me off is 100%. Yeah, like let's say 100% medium or 100% ground, 100% Z. Who the fuck cares, right? Like, what about that photo? Like, what about like sharpening you did in Photoshop? Then put it in, right? 1% Photoshop, right? So it's becomes so ridiculous, right? Like, and some people, it has some sort of importance, because they ask you, they go like, oh, could you break it down? How much of Photoshop or how much of 3D is there? It's like, oh my God, it's almost like I'm a police department, being questioned about my work. But again, I would say since I ever started doing this, I prefer to focus on more positive things. There's a lot of things happening here and there. But I also do believe it's a bit, not dangerous in a way, but it doesn't touch me as an artist because I have quite a good experience. You can filter certain things. But when you're just starting out, and I can see potentially seeing an image and seeing like I did this in 10 minutes, could put a big self-doubt in here, right? You go like, shit.
Right. That's why I'm
Yeah,
trying to start this subject.
I tried to do something similar, and it took me a week to do. You know, that's why for younger artists, it actually could potentially be very tricky to digest that kind of. I did it in 10 minutes or an hour or so. But again, people say whatever they say. You know, we were talking about actually hashtags. I'm so horrible. Not because I don't know what to say. I usually actually don't know what to say. I have a work that I did, and I think about what shall I post, right? There was a period I was so frustrated with myself because I just couldn't come up with the title for my images, right? I started putting a hashtag Turkish kebabs. Man, they work because people would come in as like, why are you posting a picture of kebab but there's no kebab, right? So I was like, yeah, just me being stupid, you know.
Yeah, there's a ways to tag. I'll tell you after we're done.
Yeah, you should.
Done with this.
I have my knowledge.
It's not that difficult. It's like you can find it in like a quick Google search.
Probably people. Well, I know the logic says just make one list and just copy paste, but I'm always so not lazy. I always type that like from scratch. Like I do 1, 2, and those that.
Yeah, you don't have to. There are apps that do it for you. Like you can literally there's an app that does it. I can't remember the name of it, but it's just basically you can set up like templates or even we'll talk about it after.
Yeah.
Anyone who's like interested, just one Google search or even just like search on the App Store, you will find like 10 apps that do it for you. That's the one of the kind of like, do you want to do that labor, or you can just use an app that does it for you? You know, you might not have a full crafty control, but then
no, it's not
know.
Because I want to have full crafty control.
Right.
I would always just type. You know, it's almost like an old man. You know, it's like squinting, just typing. It was like, yeah.
But okay. So going back to the minutes or decision making, how much you think it can like. How much you can train yourself into that, because obviously there is a limit on how faster you can get, right? But then there's also a question, okay, do you want your work day look the way that after every single day of work you're exhausted because you've had to make so many decisions, and how is that influencing your creativity as well? Because it's one thing to become more productive in a way, okay, I can make decisions faster, but doesn't mean that my decisions are actually the right decisions, or are they just decisions to make my productivity better,
Oops, you disappeared?
No, don't worry about it.
Oh, your camera
is turning, yeah.
Man, I enjoyed looking at you. For example, I would say when I do that kind of timer-based exercises, it's more sort of an exercise, when you have fighters prepping for fight, they do all this crazy like condition exercises, right?
Yeah.
Just to make sure that they prepare. But I also what I'm trying to do, I try to eliminate what causes me to be ineffective, basically. Like for example, one of them, like I just recently was doing my course, and students were amazed how I use like literally 3-4 layers, and they were like, "Oh, but like I have a tendency to use like 100 of those." Whenever I need them, I do create layers, but I just felt like the more layers I have, the more hesitant I become. You start moving layers. Okay,
right.
You move this particle to the right, 1 pixel left, and you're just losing so much time. So I decided, okay, I'm just gonna flatten it. And if it's something is off, I'm just cut it off. With content-aware fill, you can just fix it very quickly. So just
we're very similar that way. And I remember when we were working together 8 years ago, you had those hundreds of layers.
Yes, I don't anymore because I realized it just becomes very difficult. I was like, okay, I'll just do it on 2-3 layers. So
yeah.
And again, to exercising with time, it's just one of those things that I'm trying to do to make sure that next time I do a real job, I will just do it, concentrate on what matters basically. And also my problem is my focus is very terrible. Like I start doing something, I can be distracted easily by anything, like YouTube video, a message on Instagram, or like I'm really terrible. That's why like I put those timers for myself, so at least for an hour I can just concentrate on the job, and then obviously I let it go. I go and do some social media stuff and look or like do something extra, and then I come back. So basically it helps me, like setting up timers helps me to stay focused for a certain amount of time. So that's basically my thing.
Yeah. Yeah, you know, I've noticed one of the reasons why I'm mentioning this is because, you know, I think I had that conversation way back when with Nick Jindra when we were, you know, we were working together at Naughty Dog, and we, we were jumping on, like, I think he was one of his first film projects, and there was a bunch of other instances like that. But like I always found this advice where, you know how it is, you join the project, right? Like this is a brand new film or video game or whatever. It's like you're super excited. This is gonna be awesome, right? And then because you want to prove yourself, you're like working that extra time, and like really, you're excited, so you're gonna have more ideas, obviously, but you are like trying also to prove yourself, and you're working that extra time. Then over time, you get more tired, and then like after like 3-4 weeks, that magic around this whole new thing just becomes a reality where, okay, this is just another project right now, right? Because I've done the exciting part. Now I'm kind of dealing with maybe changes and whatnot, and sometimes you get like a new assignment that sparks the whole thing again. But my experience is that you're gonna have at least a couple of points in the project where you were like at least 1/3 of your productivity than your normal productivity, because you're just tired, right?
Yeah.
But then if you're over, like, you don't want to under perform, obviously, but if you're overperforming, then you're setting up a standard for the rest of the project.
Yeah.
Because then the expectations, okay, this is how fast you work, this is the ideas you come up with. If 2 weeks from now, like, all of a sudden your ideas are bad and you're slow, like, hey, dude, what's happening? You know?
Yeah. I know what you mean. I just recently had it. Like, I was working on something and I really wanted to do it, and this was something I wasn't exactly sure how to do it. So I stayed up till 6 a.m. for 3 days in a row, and I pulled it off. I did it. So they said, oh, that's great. And obviously, once the things got approved, I had to take it easier slightly. They never said anything, but I just felt like, dude, if they look at my performance, it looked like I was able to accomplish so much in 3 days, but obviously I was staying up till like 6 a.m. in the morning. I know what you mean, but you know, like, you probably will confirm it. The reason why I love film industry is the fact that the projects are quite short term. You know, like, unless you start doing like a crazy series that you have like 5 seasons to do, it's usually like 4, 5 months, 6 months, and then you swap to something else. So,
or even shorter than that.
Yeah.
You know, projects that were 2 weeks and like gone.
I guess on average, if you get like projects, it would be 3-4 months.
A couple of months. Yeah.
And that's why the turnaround is pretty fast, so it kind of keeps you fresh. And yeah, it's a good thing to have. I personally haven't worked in game studios, so maybe I would love that too. But, you know, working on a game for 5 years, I don't think.
There's only one aspect that I mean, everyone's different, right? There are people that just love to work on one thing for like forever, and that's just the way they are. But there's one aspect that makes it very exciting, or not exciting is the wrong word, but very calming. It's the fact that if you're working in a studio, on like in an established studio where you feel happy about your work and happy about the environment you're in. It's one thing to work in a studio that you're really enjoying, and the other thing when you're working in a studio that is just like you hate your days, you know, and you're grudging to get to work. That we're not talking about that.
No, absolutely.
We're talking about best case scenario where you're working for whether it's a big or small studio, but you're working on exciting projects with lots of good friends. You have a good quality of life, and you're enjoying it. It makes everything else easy in your life because you're not stressing in between projects like, okay, what's going to be the next thing, you know? And now, I don't know if you've noticed that, but for freelancers, especially in films become, from what I've noticed, more seasonal, meaning you're going to work on a project and you're going to get like 20 phone calls or 10 phone calls or like 5 phone calls, whatever, or emails. Everyone wants something from you, and then if you don't pick that, there might be like 3 months of no one reaching out, and then again like September or whatever comes in, and there's like 5 people asking, hey, are you available?
Yeah.
So it's not as spread out in time.
Yeah.
And that introduces that extra stress where.
Oh yeah.
You know, where it's like, well, if I don't if I don't pick that one extra thing, that's it's gonna make the end of this project very difficult and the beginning of this project very difficult.
Yeah.
But I can like roll in from in between the projects. Then I might not be in a situation where I have more stable or like less stressful environment for the next few months, and that just becomes like this very like even and this like once you're on a certain level, people reach out to you because they want to work with you. Whether they worked with you before and know you and have a trust that you can do the work, or if your work just speaks for itself. Like if you don't take this one phone call, you might be able to take another one, right? And usually it's like you stress out, but at the end of the day, it just works out.
Yeah.
It's a little different when you're not in that spot. I don't even want to think about that because I haven't been in that spot in forever.
Yeah.
So for me, it's very difficult to tell you, like, what if the phone calls are not coming? Like, I wish I could tell something else than, hey, just make your work better.
Yeah.
But I just don't know.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean, right?
Yeah,
with like the
totally,
stability of work.
Yeah, I totally understand you. And this is where, like, when people ask me freelance or studio work, there are pros and cons. Like you said, like I worked in the studios and I had so much fun. It was like fantastic. First, you surround yourself with the guys all the time.
Yeah.
They're super talented. There's always fun stuff. But obviously, you don't have a luxury to. Basically, you don't. Like you can't just like there are mornings when you wake up and you just don't want to go to work, right? You just cannot do that.
Or you just don't want to wake up and want to sleep over.
Yeah, that's as well. But then freelancing also could potentially get very stressful just from the reasons that you mentioned, and also occasionally, especially when you're starting out to like start to work with someone you never worked before, like you don't know what the expectations are, and you just like you need to find out what exactly they want. With the studio work as well, like you can work for 2 hours and show the art director or whoever is leading the project, hey, what do you think? They can always drop you a couple of tips, right?
Right.
But when you're doing as a freelancer, you're basically like guessing, and that's for me. I don't know how it works. For me, eventually it turns out that I'm doing more work because I'm trying to secure all the ends. Like I'm trying to do a few versions just to show the variations, something like that. And you kind of like once you do a few reviews with the client, you get what they want, and then it goes smooth. But the beginning phase, could
very
get,
stressful. Yeah,
could get
I agree with you.
A bit bumpy, and so
you're trying to find the rhythm, like what kind of language the director or production designer speaks. Am I doing like? Do you like if I work that way or if I work that way? And that's just like oftentimes it's just like relying on your strengths and then showing those will usually do the best, because if you're trying something completely different that you're not used to, you might not be as productive or not as good at it. But it is stressful because like I've never worked with that person. Like I don't know if they like this kind of work or that kind of work more.
And also because you're not seeing raw emotions, right? You're just seeing text. You don't know it. Maybe the guy was smiling when he wrote that. You never know, right?
Yeah.
You're just like trying to read between lines. And that's why it's. But again, I do agree. Like every time you have those kind of stressful situations and you pull it off, and why was I worried? I can do this, right? It's just it's like it's a nature of creative job, because creative job is so subjective. It's not something you can touch. It's just imaginary world. That's why we often feel like maybe what we're doing is not what they want from us, and maybe I'm not as good as I thought I am. And all sort of that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So studio. I'm definitely going back to studios at some point. To a studio. I did last year. I did this fantastic project for BBC last year. It was like 5 months in the studio. It was great. So
cool.
I would possibly prefer it on and off. Also,
that's finding a balance, right? Like just doing a little bit on, a little bit off. It all depends.
Yeah.
Like, I guess it depends what kind of people you work with, what's the project,
That's true.
all of those things.
Well, I have a good tell. Whenever my wife tells me like, "Look, you're becoming very annoying. You should go and work for a studio." I go, "Okay, I get it. I should get out of the house," because I work from home. And like sometimes like I sit all the time here doing stuff, and she doesn't like it. She's okay. We'll go and work somewhere.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, once you get there's a point where it's like you're kind of annoying. Like, you need to get out. Definitely, that happens. I've recently picked up. I mean, I've been working with Marvel on the show in the studio. Like I only commute like half a week because I'll have all the other obligations. I cannot commit the full week. It will be just impossible for me to do. But I always thought like I'm probably never gonna go back and work in the studio because I just enjoy working from my own, like the luxury of my own place. I don't get interrupted too much. I can find my flow. But it is, I mean, it still is a pretty refreshing experience because I haven't been working in the studio for years now, so that was like a very cool, like a change of pace in a way. But also, it's just the production designer that I'm working with. He's just like one of my favorites, and I just couldn't pass on that opportunity. Yeah, that was. It is fun. It is fun, but I'm getting to a point. I mean, you know how the films, especially in LA, the way they work is, they will be done in LA studios somewhere like where it's Sony, Marvel, Warner Brothers and whatnot. The studio, usually studio starts in art department over there, and then eventually it moves to like a location, right, where they start building sets and whatnot. So we're, so eventually that's going to happen with my project, where they are going to go on location and yeah, and I'll be working from home, hopefully.
Yeah. Well, I know what you mean because like whenever we call it working on set here, so maybe
right,
it's called different in
because
the
in
US.
London, like usually that's where it goes, right? Like it actually goes from US to London or like to Atlanta or to Vancouver and whatnot.
It
But
depends.
there's films that are done from start in London now as well, right?
Yeah, so a lot of films, man. It's
yeah,
like that since I started probably working here, and all the studios they have, all the set locations are so far away, man. Like 40 miles from London, and imagine like
How long does it take you?
well, when I was in Jurassic World, I was on the opposite side of the town, so it would take me 2 hours each way. And that's when everything went
horrible.
smooth. When you walk in and there is a train, you walk in and you change the train and blah blah blah. But occasionally you will have like you just arrived and like train departed like a minute ago. You have to wait. There was one time also it was on the way next to Wembley Stadium. They occasionally would have like concerts or some bands singing or like matches. Dude, when that happens, it would go up to 5 hours every day.
Oh my god.
I was killing.
Get out of here.
Well, the good news, this is when I started learning Blender because I was just on my phone watching tutorials. But then also, like, first you could go like, oh, I'm gonna have 4 hours. I can just put my videos on and just watch it. Nah, that's not. You're so that tired after working there for a day. All you want to watch is maybe a couple of UFC knockouts or something like that. Just to sleep well. Yeah, it's quite powerful. That's why a lot of guys who work on set, like I have a few friends of mine, Joan, Matt also, they actually live outside of London, closer to those studios, so they can commute faster. Yeah.
Yeah, 5 hours sounds horrible. 2 hours sounds a lot.
It was crazy, man.
Yeah, on the bad day, I have 1.5 hours, dude. I'm so exhausted. When I get in the morning, I get in the studio in the morning. I feel like I've done a whole day of work just because of the commute. That's the annoying part. If the studio is far, and in LA, dude, the traffic is so bad all the time.
I know.
Pretty much you're gonna be in the traffic all the time.
Well, that's partially again one of my American experiences. And obviously I've seen it in movies. I heard a lot about it. Like, they say you have to have a car in LA. I was like, what?
Oh,
like,
yeah.
you can't walk.
Yeah.
I was like, no. And I'm like, Europe is so compact. Like I love Europe. Like you can walk. You go to like France and Paris. You can walk everywhere. So which is great. That's why like. But you need a car all the time? Nah, not my type probably. But then saying that, maybe one day. Let's see how it goes.
Yeah, like people don't realize downtown LA, like when you look at movies, oh, it's so close to the ocean. It's actually 10 miles,
Yeah.
It's not that close at all. And then there's traffic. It's gonna take you anywhere from, like, if there's no traffic, that's 15 minutes, that's fine. If there's a traffic, that's an hour away. That's not close at all, Yeah, it can get dodgy. Dude, I think we're good to start thinking about wrapping it up. We've covered a lot of topics.
Yeah, we did.
I do want to get into questions because there's so many of them.
Yeah, let's do it straight away.
That's gonna take a chunk of our time. I will read the first one that comes from Patreon from Nikita. She actually mentioned that she met you in Kazakhstan when you were doing
Probably.
some talk over there.
Yeah.
Anyways, her question was how important you think VR is for character artists.
Uh, well, again, important is probably not the the right type of question because in the end, what important is the final design of it, right?
Right.
So, how you like usually when you work, none of production designers or unlike they're very curious about it, they wouldn't ask you how did you do that, right? They will, oh, it's all about final
Yes.
end product. But what is interesting, by the way, I think Nikita, it's man name. It's not because
You
like
think?
yeah, I think so.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Honestly,
Anyway,
it's
just because of this
her
person
or him or
listening. Anyway,
whoever you
Nikita,
are. No
Nikita
disrespect.
is
That's
a man
yeah.
name. So
Is it?
yeah, it
But
is.
there's this movie Nikita. You know,
Yeah,
remember that movie
no,
with with the killer?
Yeah, but not in Russia. So
All right.
not. I mean, in Russian-speaking countries,
Okay.
Nikita is the man name. So yeah,
That's something to learn.
yes, exactly.
Um,
So basically, but what makes VR very interesting, I think, is the fact that you actually almost like drawing your characters. You know, that's why like I always my experience with VR, you actually have 2D guys enjoying it more than 3D people for some awkward reason. But I don't find it awkward. I do understand why because normally like when 3D guys, let's say you pick up a 3D sculptor, he goes into VR. There are no tools like if you compare like ZBrush to like medium or gravity scale, it's so different the way you operate with it, the way you kind of use the tool. But 2D guys, they actually draw, and now they have this ability to do it in 3D VR space, you know? And it's great for characters because you can just create this character design, but not like in T-pose. You can make it straight away like in action poses because doing stuff in VR is so much better. So I don't think it's important for character design, but does it open new possibilities and does it make it easier and more intuitive to use? Oh, absolutely, I 100%. It just
Yeah.
doesn't have that final finished look that you can achieve, for example, in with traditional digital sculpting. It's either 3D Code, Blender, or ZBrush. But this is where I keep getting pissed off by the fact that people want to do everything in one package. No, just be smart. Use the program what it was made for. Like if VR makes more gestural, more kind of expressive stuff faster, use it for that part. Then just export it and then continue it refining with the programs that are made for this, right? Like ZBrush is made to kind of come up with the crazy, super high fidelity details. It is good for that. Then you just stop at some point and you start using it. So, yeah.
Cool. All right. Next question. There's going to be a few from Instagram. How to get good ideas without feeling like a hack? Reference and inspiration to originality.
Oh man, that's a difficult one, isn't it?
Loaded one.
Yeah, it's a loaded one. Good ideas. It's a very subjective topic. You know, like it depends. Like most of the time, it depends on your brief. You know, you get a brief and then you start coming up with the good ideas. Maybe by good,
Yeah.
they meant like original ideas, I guess. And again, it's a very difficult subject as well because we always try to come up with these original ideas, and sometimes we spend too much time to come up with these original ideas instead of coming with something that addresses a specific like task or a specific point. You know, like it's almost like with personal projects. When you start out, you want to do something special. You know, you want to kind of do a project that will be the best one and the most unique one in the world. And then you ended up never doing it because you just spent too much time looking for those ideas.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a complicated question. I don't have
The Pinterest curse, where you're only doing boards and not really not really using them as an inspiration, but as a hack of like, oh, I got this, and this. This is a good collage of what I'm gonna do. You know.
Exactly. I guess the bottom line, you gotta have a problem to solve. You know, to come up with it. Because when you're
Right.
looking for a problem to solve, it could be a visual problem or it could be a storytelling problem or any kind of design problem, then there's a better chance that you will come up with an idea which will be driven by certain factors. This is where
Right.
the idea becomes unique because let's say you want to do a vehicle that hovers over deserts, right? That's a problem you have, and now you start coming up with different images, but not just random stuff, which just kind of looks cool, but because that will solve some certain specific problems that you have to face in your task. So yeah, I would always start from that, and I will specify a problem, and then that will drive my Pinterest board or my reference research phase, and then I will start bringing it all together.
Yeah, I feel like references are good for filling the blank. You know, like, okay, I have an idea what I want to do. I okay, this is going to be this kind of environment, this kind of setting, and those kind of characters. Now, I'm not sure about the details of it. You know, like what kind of lighting, or how is the lighting that I envision is actually playing out on references. Let's pull that up and see what's going on there. I want to have a medieval character. What's the armor really looking like? Because I vaguely remember it from my head, but it would be good to know what the texture looks like, where the dirt is, all that kind of stuff, or how the armor pieces are connecting. Like that's the good way to approach the references, where it's just filling in the blank spaces, but your general idea is in your head. Yeah.
Especially like when, as a designer, like we are, like the stuff we have to design is so different. One day you have to design something that looks like a horse, right? I don't want to make the horse from scratch because I'm not a horse specialist, right? And then you just look at the reference, you understand it, and you just like get all the like important parts that you need from the reference, and that's what the reference is made for. Like you just fill in those gaps, like you said. You trying to learn from it what you're not, you don't know much about it, and then basically fill those gaps with those references. But some strange reason, some people will consider that as a cheat, but good for them. Good for them.
I guess we're all cheaters.
Yeah, we are, especially me.
What is the best attitude to have when trying to improve? What do you think?
Just love it, I know it's simple as it is, but we already talked about it. Because learning, again, it's a physical process. You need to put in hours, and when you love it, that becomes like a fun journey. You actually enjoy it. And like sometimes I would wake up in the morning and I was like, shit, I wanted to do this thing yesterday, but I fell asleep, right? It's that, and like, exciting when you actually love it. Otherwise it becomes like a burden, And actually there was a study where they took two groups of people, and one of them were jogging and the other group was playing football, and they saw that the guys playing football were having were improving faster because football has a fun element, right? I don't know if you jog, but when you jog, the fun part is after you finish jogging, right? When you're tired and you get all the endorphins flowing. But when you actually jog, most of the time you hate yourself. Like, why am I doing this, right? But football has a fun part of it because it's competitive play. You people having fun, and that's how they progress faster. Same with our industry. Right. When you're doing something, especially learning something, when it becomes your passion and you love it, there is a better chance that you can keep going for a longer time, and actually excel it in it.
Right. Yeah, I agree. I mean, unless you compound jogging with something like audiobook or something,
Exactly.
And they're like, oh, you have a learning process that's with it, then that's it. But yeah, raw jogging. I guess there are some joggers that like, I freaking love jogging. Like, what are you talking about?
No.
I love counting my steps, that kind of stuff.
Well, that's
But on average.
No, that's also a different level to that we can add, is that most of the time when you're starting out something, it's actually not fun. Like when you're starting out and your stuff looks like crap, it's not fun, right?
Yeah, of course.
Like, yeah, you love it, but what you're doing doesn't look right, and that's what happened to me. You just need to understand you need to give it some time,
Yeah.
Because it's like going to gym. Like first few months or weeks, you hate yourself, but after that, it actually makes you happy.
That first workout is the worst.
That's the worst. And this is exactly, I think like I read a book about it, where it was saying that the reason why you hate it, your body basically goes like, hey, dude, don't do this again, right? Because it get used to the equilibrium that you have, and this is the reason why everything like aches the next morning, because your body kind of tries to tell you, hey, dude, don't do that again. Those abs, leave them. I don't want to see them, right?
Yeah.
But and same with the like when you're trying to come up with to learn a new software, not because people don't want you, they just don't like they want you to be where you've been before, and that's why like especially making first steps in something is probably the hardest part. But trust me, like if you keep going, at some point it becomes something that you start enjoying, and then from there it's just like exponentially you just enjoy it more and more, and the more you enjoy it, the better the outcome, and it just starts rolling and rolling and rolling.
Yeah. I agree. I agree 100%. Here's a good question that we haven't touched on that subject at all. Any advice for pricing your work as a young freelancer?
Oh man, that's a that's a hard one, isn't it? Okay,
Yeah, it's
I'll be
difficult.
straight away very honest with it. This is not my expertise. Like I because I can tell you the way I started out. I like the very first ever money conversation which I had with a client. There was this Russian art director. He wanted to work with me, and we had a Skype call, and he was like, "Hey, okay, how much do you want?" And I was like, I'm in my mind, I'm thinking about $30/$40. So because I was back in Tajikistan, so it's a good
Right.
money,
Yeah.
especially like
Yeah.
10 years ago. And then I saw him typing, and I was like, okay, I'll let you go. I'll let him come up with the number. And then I saw the number, it was 500. Dude, like, there's this moment in your mind, like, I'm seeing my bright future, like dancing and stuff like that. Oh my God. Obviously, I know we agreed on the price. I couldn't finish the job because I was just so amateur, like, I just didn't know
Right.
what I was doing. He never paid me for that, but then eventually we ended up working later, and then he was actually like, yeah, I did some paid work with them. So I
Hmm.
would also say, and this is probably ties up with the previous question. When I started out, money was never a priority for me. As long as I wasn't hungry, which I wasn't, like I was obviously never let people to use me, never let people use me, but I was never driven by how much I want to get paid. I was always driven by the the fact that I wanted to to do this for a living, and I just worked my ass off to get better. And eventually,
Right.
again, like I said, it's exponentially. You get better, you have more fun, you get paid more, and stuff like that, and it just starts growing and growing, with the time and with your
Yeah.
experience.
Yeah. Money talk is difficult because like it's so dependent on the kind of the quality of work you do, and there's so many different approaches, and
Hmm.
it just relies on what kind of character you are as well. It's there's just so many layers that a
There's a
simple
lot of
advice,
layers. Yeah,
yeah, simple advice just doesn't work sometimes. I think the one advice that can be taken right away, that most of the people agree, is that you should never work for free
absolutely,
for a project that you know they could pay you for doing it.
absolutely.
But they are trying to, like, oh, this is a young guy.
Hmm.
Hey, we'll give you an exposure.
Hmm.
Like, don't exposure means nothing. Honestly, you can get exposure by just posting on social media. You're gonna get more exposure than anyone else would give you,
Hmm.
or collaborating with, like,
Hmm.
maybe one of the larger channels, whatever, is someone who you know really
Hmm.
well and you want to
Hmm.
collaborate.
Hmm.
That's far better exposure than anything.
Absolutely.
I've noticed if someone doesn't want to pay you and they tell that it will give you exposure, they usually end up not giving you anything, like not even mentioning that that's your work, or
Uh,
just putting it somewhere in the bottom where no one sees it.
that's true. That's true.
Yeah.
Absolutely. No, that's for sure. Like, because that happened probably to me when I was just starting out. There will be people, not as they want to get advantage of you, which turns out they're trying to do that, but yeah, they just basically want to benefit from you being inexperienced and from the fact that
Right.
you
Yeah,
want
they're
to get
taking
into this
advantage.
industry. So, yeah, I guess like my policy was always because I started late, I knew I don't want to join this industry as a junior because usually juniors they get paid obviously less because of lack of experience and all the
Right.
other stuff. But I knew I'm starting late. I'm having my family I need to take care of. That's why I was like, okay, I will hit the point when they will come to me and they will contact me. There's a difference when you knock the doors and when they come to you. So when
Yeah.
they come to you, obviously you can say, hey, these are my numbers, right? So that's where it's kind of tricky when you're starting out. Obviously, you have to know the doors, and you go like, hey, uh, can you hire me? Can you hire me? So having that in mind, I just try to make sure that my work looks like I'm not a junior, I'm senior, and then obviously everything played out as I think it should.
Yeah, it's very difficult, but yeah, I would say don't work for free, especially if it's a studio that you know they can pay you. If it's like a small project and you feel like it's an opportunity to create like a collaborative like some collaboration that will vastly out benefit any kind of monetary uh, value you would get out of it, then that's a different thing. But usually that only happens if you're like already have enough experience to spot. Okay, I might not necessarily do it for money, but once it's released and the credit is there, like people will realize, okay, damn, like that opens new doors, right, for you.
Absolutely.
But it's a very rare. I know some professional artists that do that. Like but that's their initiative to do something rather than someone approaching them. Hey, do you want to do it? Right? It's like no. We're doing it differently. I'm approaching you. I want to do something for you because I love your work. I love the way you operate. I love your product or whatever that would be. And then I'm doing something for you because I know that working with you, I'll learn something or it will have vastly better benefit than whatever money you would pay me over time, right? So that's where it makes sense to me. Like, okay, that's where you can work for free because you're coming up with an initiative because you want to do something that you normally don't do. But just yeah, like if a big client reaches out like, hey, we're gonna give you a credit, it's like, well, you have to give me a credit anyways because that's the law, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So, um, yeah, I think we can agree on that. In terms of pricing, it's very difficult because it's just yeah. I mean, there are certain bars. Ben Mauro did like the good breakdown. We talked about it on his, with him on the previous podcast. I think the link for that is there as well. Where he broke down like how much you can expect working in certain industries. So that's always a good knowledge to have, you know, so that when Microsoft studios or like Ubisoft or Naughty Dog or whoever approaches like, hey, we want to work with you, you kind of know what kind of rate you can expect, right? Versus like, oh, here's $50, and you're like, oh my god, you know, just because you live in like a small country doesn't mean that you have to be paid way less than you would normally get paid. So,
True.
all right, let's maybe read two more questions. I'm looking at Facebook questions right now. Three of your favorite artists. That's a simple
Oh
one.
man, that's a difficult one because I read it, that question. I was like,
Because
what?
you're gonna read those three and like everyone like all the other friends like, hey, why you didn't mention me?
Yeah. Well, the thing is, then it's better to clarify, like, a favorite artist still living now or like lived some time ago. So I don't
I'll
know.
leave it up to you.
I don't know. It's like I love like just artists in general. Like every artist has different things about them. They do something that excites me. Like, and it doesn't necessarily need to be always like what I do, concept artists. And sometimes I'm scrolling on my Instagram, I see this guy. He does like some completely unrelated stuff. He's still an artist, but he just does performance, and I like it. So I would say, if from like classic artists, like I really love Russian painters like Leviton and Serov and Arhipov. Like there are a bunch of guys that like obviously.
That's three. That's you reached the limit.
Yeah, I reached the limit. Yeah, let's keep it. Yeah, I'll keep it to old painters because
There you go.
nobody gets offended then.
Another one is like a little more elaborated.
Yeah.
Finding energy to keep pushing forward every day consistently with art after spending a decent amount of energy working full time on unrelated stuff that pays the bills,
Yeah.
and how to organize time well and work within the limited time frame to consistently practice art seriously when a big chunk of your day is taken away by other responsibilities. That's a good one
Yeah.
because that's pretty much a struggle that vast majority of us either already have or already had.
Yeah, it's a very good question, but I think we kind of I did reply to it partially when I was talking about that I really love it, you know? Like, I just remember myself working for studios. I would work 8 hours or 9 sometimes, and I will run back to my computer to sit down and start doing again the same thing. At some point,
Right, but the question is if you're not an artist, like you're working
that's true.
your regular job,
Okay,
and
got it.
because that's a completely different subject, right?
That's how I started out. Obviously, I was doing something closer to art, but like I was doing graphic design and art direction. But again, then this is very probably known. How can I put it together? You have to sacrifice certain things, otherwise it's impossible to do it. You know,
Right.
because you have to work. It's like an endless loop, right? You have to work on a job which you like, but obviously like you want to do something different, like art. There's no luxury. You can just go like, hey, I'm not doing this, I want to learn art. You have to balance it anyway, and this is the way I did. I had to sacrifice my time, which I have zero regrets that I did it, because most of the time when I remember those times when we were hanging, I was only in my late 20s, and the guys were like, hey, let's go and like we have this club and let's have some fun. I was like, no, I need to go and paint for this challenge I'm participating in. And they were like, are you crazy? But obviously now the tables are turned. They were like, shit, wish we hadn't gone, we didn't go to those clubs, and we would do the same thing that you
focus on things.
Yeah, I had to sacrifice, but obviously there is balance. Like I did certain things not like wrong when I was doing it. I overdid a couple of the things that I had to sacrifice. There is a balance, but it definitely needs a little bit of sacrifice. Otherwise, it's just 24 hours a day, you know. But that's what eventually makes the difference between people who did certain things and people who did not. You know, I think like the only thing I would do differently, I would probably stretch it out on a few more years instead of like trying. Okay, in 3 years I'm gonna get in. I got in, but it was like a lot of hard work. You know, I was just like doing crazy hours. So I would just stretch it out, like let's say not 3 years, 5 years, but man, in 5 years you can do so many things. You know, even if after work for an hour, let's say you decided to become a digital sculptor, you sculpt an hour for every day for an hour. That accumulates to a crazy number of hours throughout like 5 years.
That's correct.
The problem with that, you need to just make it consistent habit. This is where a lot of us, including myself, we give up. You know, we start certain things, especially when the results are not coming as fast as we want, right? Because like you're doing something that you're not confident with, and you're doing something you probably never had education in, you know, and you're not getting results that you see online. It's discouraging. It's definitely, it is. But I guess like if you keep doing it, you potentially will get there for sure.
Yeah, it's very difficult to stay motivated when you don't see results, right?
Exactly.
Like you're putting time. It's like, is it even worth? Is it even worth? But then I think the question you can ask yourself is, okay, let's say it's 2020 right now. It's February, or actually March 2020, right? We're in like beginning of March 2020. Let's imagine where we are at in 2021.
Yes.
If we're putting an hour a day, 365 days a year, right? We're putting 1 hour towards that specific goal, but we're consistent. We're doing it every day for an hour.
Yes.
We're gonna be 365 hours ahead.
That's true.
If we didn't do anything.
Yeah.
Like I'm not a calculator, but that's many days of like hard practice, right? That makes a giant difference.
It's a lot of time, and again, my experience that some people just have natural tendency to get certain type of things faster, right? I know for there are guys out there who are better than me in 3D, in painting, in drawing, in sculpting. They just have physical ability to do certain things better, but I think because you're putting so many hours, maybe you get there not as fast as they could get, but you will get there because you're consistently putting the hours in. It just scares a lot of people off when you see you look at someone's work. You know, when you do portfolio reviews, I did it a few times and people don't like it. You look at someone's work and you go like, dude, I think you need another 3 years to get somewhere. I was like, what? It's like, what do you mean 3 years? Like, right? Like 3 years sound like there was a guy, I told him you need 5 years. He obviously got offended, but he was a friend of mine.
Right.
Now it's been 8 years. He never got anywhere just because he never even did a year of what I think he had to do.
And sometimes it might be just a year. Like it might sound like it's 5 years, but a year from there you find like a different approach, or you learn as you go and you realize, okay, you know what, I was approaching things in the wrong way. Yes. And I've learned it by practicing it more for a year. But just like it's coming back to what you said in the very beginning, where people are like, they want to get the tips. They don't focus on like the long-term learning experience and getting the foundation and whatnot. And you're only getting tips if you're only looking at learning process through that lens. What happens is that you're kind of narrowing yourself to only one way of working. Whereas if you're like, okay, I know it's not there, I need to keep learning, I need to go through foundation or whatever. And then usually what happens is that as you're learning more things, you ask yourself more and more questions, and sometimes you're going to ask the right question, which will change your trajectory even by just a percentage or 2%, right? But over a longer period of time, that's a dramatic difference.
Absolutely. 100%.
Yeah.
And also, like, just to kind of reinforce what you said, it's not just pure grind, you know? It's not like you need to, like, for 5 years just do one specific things nonstop. No, you have to have a strategy, you know? Like you said, you do sometimes you sketch something for a month and then you realize, I'm actually, no, it's not about sketching. Maybe I don't know anatomy, right? And you go step back. So actually when you do that, like, continuous work for long period of time, you go deeper, you know, you start like getting what really matters, especially if you're trying to learn it by yourself, you know, when there's no one around you. You actually realize, no, it's not like, man, it will sound funny, but I did it myself. You know Kim Jong-ji, the great
of course.
So recent, I just like started doing my iPad stuff, and I saw he did a course. I never done this in my life, but I did it. You know, when they put it out for 10% discount, like for first 100 people, I just straight away I bought it. I was like, oh my god, I'm gonna learn. Now
you were the first adopter.
Yeah, and I looked at the videos. I knew it's gonna be that. They are fantastic videos, but it's just basically him drawing, like, and you realize to be able to do that kind of stuff, you need to know anatomy very well, and you need to know like how to make forms in 3D space on 2D planes with the ink and paper and stuff like that. So again, like, most of the time when you're learning this, you need to go deep, you know, down to kind of get all the foundation sorted out. So it's not just pure grind. It's not about like just doing sketches for 6 years or doing sculpting for 6 years. It's adapting your strategy, going deeper, learning fundamentals, and that eventually makes you like a complete artist. And then again, maybe in 2 years you will see the progression, and that will start motivating you more and more. And from there, it just like it's becomes a fun journey.
Yeah, it does. Or a realization that that's maybe not for you, because that can happen too.
Exactly.
Yeah,
100%.
but you need to put in the work. You need to put in the work to realize that, and the faster you do it, like, it's better to do something, realize it's not for you, and then step away from that, than doubt yourself that, okay, like, oh, it's too much work, and then be that person that is just regretting that you never tried, you know?
That's true.
Yeah. Dude, we've been talking for almost 2 hours now.
Man.
Can you imagine?
It went by it passed very quickly, right? Yeah. It's good stuff. We talked about, like, you know, occasionally I felt like when I was having like podcasts before, I was always like hesitant. Maybe I shouldn't say something that I think it could offend someone and blah blah blah. But right now, like, I'm just being super honest about everything I say. Like the cult thing that I brought up, it could potentially backlash on me. I don't care. And that's what I think. Like the moment you do the cult thing, you stop being objective.
You're gonna get Blender cancelled.
Well, I don't care. They know how much I love Blender, and they know how much I help them to promote certain things. But
Yeah.
it just the other thing we talked about, like 100% medium or 100% blah blah blah. Who cares, man? Like
Yeah.
what cares is the end result, and it's actually I think it's stupid to force yourself to do something in a program which is not meant to do certain things. So yeah, and also like we talked about, very honestly, we talked about the motivation and the way you put it together. That sometimes you do certain things and you realize it's not for you. That's also could be the case. Like for example, I do a lot of like workshops and I do teach, and sometimes at the beginning of every course I tell people, you're here maybe just to realize that this is not what you want to do, because concept art,
Right.
it sounds like fun, but there's layers of complexities. We're not painters, we're not illustrators. Sometimes the stuff we do is very rough. It's just about the like problem solving, and maybe that's not for you. So but then in the end you have to put in hours. So that's why, oh my god, I feel so good because I was very honest today about everything.
That's good. Coming back to like the last thing you mentioned, one of the most frustrating, like we've mentioned the self-help books, like, oh, like why what's the next one you're gonna recommend? And it's like it reminds me those Instagram posts about business, like the top business executives do those 5 steps to become success. You know what? The truth of the matter is, if you're not good at business, there's only certain things you can learn to be good at it.
Yeah.
But if you don't have passion for it, you're never gonna be a like that businessman person that's preaching all of those things.
100%.
You might learn certain things that will help you to navigate with your finances a little better, like certain, save money or like invest in things, but like someone's like, invest in those stocks. It's like, hey, unless you're like obsessed about stocks, that's gonna be the worst decision you can ever make, right?
That's true. That's true.
Or unless you have friends that will help you with that are smart, that's a different thing. But not everything is for everyone. We're all built differently.
Yeah.
We all have different DNA in ourselves. We all are excited about different things. And if someone tells you like, I used to think that way, that by sheer force of pushing yourself through ungodly amount of hours, you will eventually get to a point where you are a great artist. That's not true.
Yeah.
That's just simply not true, because if you're not excited about the fact that it's gonna be very difficult to do it, there's complexity layers. But if that part by itself is not exciting to you, that should be a red light or a warning sign that says it's either not for you, or there are certain other things that you didn't solve just yet to be prepared to step into that realm.
Yeah.
So
yeah, agree. It's a lot of layers. I think like it's interesting that I think like a lot of these art podcasts, including yours, like it got matured in a way, because I do believe like there's no like, for some reason I keep always saying like there's no like 69 ways to become successful person. I don't know why the number is always 69. You know those books, right? 69 ways to become the successful.
For nefarious reasons, dude.
Yeah, like I know like I'm making the number up, but it's always like, dude, there's no 69 ways. Like there are certain people did, and they were genuinely loving the stuff that they do, and they got successful. There is no blueprint. If there was a blueprint, and if everyone could do certain things and become exactly as successful as the others, then the value of this stuff will drop down. Like then it will be it wouldn't be special anymore. That's why you gotta find your own way. And yes, there are obstacles, but is it rewarding in the end? It is. Could you get there? Yes, but then the rest is up on you. Because it's all about how many hours you could put in. How can you build your strategy? Can you be very, very honest with yourself? Like tell yourself at some point, I'm not as good as those other guys. That's also very crucial. Be honest with yourself. Realize that you're not at that level, and just work. Build your strategy. Improve. Dig deeper. Try to take different angles, different opinions on things. Yeah. And don't be in the cult.
Don't be in a cult.
That's my final note.
I think on that note we can wrap up the show. It was a good one. We spoke for like almost 2 hours. 2 hours almost.
Again, thanks a lot for inviting me. You've been doing this.
Oh yeah, anytime, dude. if you feel lonely, like, hey, Mache, I feel lonely. Let's do a podcast. Dude, anytime.
I rarely feel lonely. You probably like, agree with me, but actually sometimes I just don't want to talk with anyone. Like,
Oh yeah, you want to like
because
focus on getting
yeah,
shit done, you know?
because like you constantly get this barrage of interactions in terms of questions or even the job itself. It could be very. Occasionally, I just like go like, man, I just want to sit down, shut off the lights, and just chill out. That's my
Right.
problem right now. Like when people talk about struggles, I struggle with my brain is always running. I struggle so much to shut it off. Like that's my problem right now. Very occasionally I just like okay, I just don't want to talk with.
Let's do a podcast. Dude, anytime.
I rarely feel lonely. You probably like, agree with me, but actually sometimes I just don't want to talk with anyone. Like
Oh yeah, you want to like
because
focus on getting
yeah,
shit done, you know?
because like you constantly get this barrage of interactions in terms of questions or even the job itself. It could be very. Occasionally I just like go like, man, I just want to sit down, shut off the lights, and just chill out. That's my
Right.
problem right now. Like when people talk about struggles, I struggle with my brain is always running. I struggle so much to shut it off. Like that's why I started doing a little bit of yoga lately, just to trying to come up with a solution to shut it off. Because there's always something running. I always think like, oh, how did I connect the texture blender, right? Like there's always like this crap that keeping my mind busy, and
Yeah.
I think it's not healthy.
There was this book that I've read. Speaking of self books, I'm very measured when it comes to which book I want to pick up and read and learn.
Mhm.
But the one I've learned was reading was called Indistractable, which is
Distractible.
about Indistractable, which is
Mhm.
about distractions,
Mhm.
and it's wrote by Nir Eyal.
Mhm.
He wrote Hooked, which is a book I read before. It's about how social media, and companies get you hooked for things like, oh, that's why you actually come back and do those things over and over, like with Instagram and Facebook. Like what are the algorithms that they use
Mhm.
to get you like really hooked? He wrote that book. This one is actually talks about exactly the same thing you're talking about, like just sort of like zoning out, like what should I do? Like, it's not necessarily a recipes.
Mhm.
The part of that book that I enjoy.
Mhm.
It's not necessarily the recipes of like this is the things you need to do in order to not be distracted anymore, because that's such a subjective thing. It works for one person, it's not going to work for others, right? But the
Yeah.
part that I like about it is it pinpoints or highlights what actually makes you distracted, which is where you can make your own conclusions. I think
Yeah.
that's the best part about it.
Awesome. Share a link. I would love to read about it.
Yeah, I'll put it on the notes
Mhm.
for the show as well.
Mhm.
Definitely will share. It's a good one. It's not like one of the best books I've ever read or anything like that. Don't get me wrong. There's a lot of other books that are great, but it's I've read a bunch of like self-help books and like those tips and whatnot. All of them, 99.9%. Well, I would actually no, 100% of them are very subjective.
Man.
So you have to take it with a grain of salt. Anyways, let's wrap it up here.
Awesome.
Guys, I hope I hope everyone who's listening to this enjoyed it. If you like the show, if you like what I'm doing here, just let me know in the comments. Press a like if you want to like it. Subscribe if you want to subscribe. It's really up to you. What it does, it helps the show to get bigger, meaning reach more people and get more people, I guess, I don't know, excited, or what would be the best way to say it? What I'm doing here is I'm just trying to help everyone, just share my experiences working in the industry, being an artist, and also inviting the people that talk about their experiences as well. I love doing that, and if you can share what I share, hopefully more people will see it. So thanks a lot, guys.
Yeah, thank you.
Till next time, big kisses.
Cheers. Bye.
This is episode 108 of The Art Cafe. Hello and welcome back. I had a pleasure to sit down and chat with Dave Raposa. Dave is a co-creator back to the Art Cafe. This is episode 106.
Hi Team Hoshko. I can see a timestamp from your comment, but it's a sketch I made for a fan art of Destiny. It's a clan specific set, and the clan's name was Nohpalli Impetu. It died when Destiny 2 launched. Let me write that here in case you're not around anymore. It's, no sé si lo voy a desdoblar. Lo voy a desdoblar, no lo voy a desdoblar. Lo voy a desdoblar, no lo voy a desdoblar. Grita, no, grita. Perfecto, no lo voy a tocar por ahora. Entonces, voy a aplicar.
You'll be hearing things about blood sacrifice, death, occultic symbols, the upside-down cross, possession, distorted faces, darkness. All these things are involved in satanic worship. Pay attention again to the beat of the drum, and then listen as the song starts to tail off. You begin to hear screams in the background, which is a symbolism of people becoming possessed as it's being sung.
dice que no tiene topología, no tiene poligonaje. Voy a rotar este, creo que está al revés. Esta sí es una escena del 2.8. Y como quiero empezar a organizarme.